Hello and welcome to season 4 of On Mute Now, a season like never before where we present Gen Z voices. This is a youth production of our podcast coming out of our recent mentorship project. We invite you to engage with our young ladies as they join On Mute Now in raising the volume on the whispered conversations in our communities. Our young ladies will share their experiences with you through thought-provoking conversations and, of course, good crack. Come join us right here every Friday at 8 p.m. See you there.
Hello and welcome to another episode of On Mute Now, the podcast that raises the volume on the whispered conversations in our community. Now, my name is Angela and I'm going to be hosting this episode. My co-hosts are Raquel, Yolande and Tassa, who you'll be seeing at various points in our series. Now, this season 4, for those of you who may have joined us up till now, you will know that it's all about Gen Z. And we have some lovely ladies that we have been working with. We've had the pleasure of working with them. And now we are going to be discussing certain things that we have been broaching along the way. So before we get into this particular episode, let me introduce you to the lovely ladies that I have around the table today. Across the table from me is Rita.
Hello. Hi, guys.
And we have Suha.
Hi.
And Claire.
Hiya.
And Gloria.
Hello.
Lovely to have you again, ladies. So today we're going to be discussing the very important topic of social anxiety. What is it? How does it manifest? Are there differences in the way that we experience it, depending on cultural differences, for example? So let's talk about that. Before we do that, I'm just going to go to the NHS website, which gives us a definition of social anxiety, or sometimes it's called social phobia. So it says, social anxiety disorder, also called social phobia, is a long-term and overwhelming fear of social situations. So it goes on to say, social anxiety is more than shyness. It's a fear that does not go away, and it affects everyday activities, self-confidence, relationships, and work or school life. Many people occasionally worry about social situations, but someone with social anxiety feels overly worried before, during, and after them. So we're going to talk about this. One of the things I just want to ask you first of all is, what is your understanding of what social anxiety is? How do you understand it? Do you want to kick off, Rita?
Yeah, like you said, it's feeling about over worrying and not being careful about around people, or not feeling happy to do activities or interact with people, and not in some positions or some situation, in all situations.
Yeah, in all situations. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anybody else want to, Suha, do you want to weigh in on that? What are your thoughts?
As my sister said, it's the fear of being in gatherings and a lot of people around you, feeling they are all judging you, and even if they are not judging you, or just even though if they are loving the way you are, but you just feel that you are not accepted. I think this is social anxiety.
Okay. Claire, did you want to add anything?
Touching on what the girls have said, yes, I agree with what they've said. I think reflecting on it, I would say it's a manifestation, a negative manifestation of all the pressure, external pressure that you get from your environment, and you're kind of reflecting on that peer pressure, for example, and the standards that you feel you can't meet. Society is saying you have to be A, B, and C, and then you look at yourself and you think, oh, I don't fit that category, and that creates that constant fear and anxiousness that then turns into this social anxiety.
Yeah, thank you for that. Gloria?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone has said, but I do think sometimes we can get mistaken as to what exactly social anxiety is. I feel like we all will experience anxiousness. We will all feel anxiety at some point in our lives. But I think where it becomes a diagnosis where you would need to seek advice is where it becomes a long-term thing, not, as Rita said, not just in certain situations, but in all situations.
Yeah. No, so let's do a little spot check, right, around the room. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So, are you, would you say, afraid of public speaking? Hands up if you think you are afraid of public speaking. If that's how you would describe yourself.
I think I am.
You think you are?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because you're on this podcast.
Maybe because it's like back in my country, I would like easily go. I was always in like big groups and stuff because I know these people and I know the environment. I know how people think. But over here, it's like totally new stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to say. So I think I wouldn't be like, I won't stand up and say something.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do it.
Nah.
So this is actually amazing then for you, right? Because and just to give some context to maybe our viewers who are maybe here for the first time, Rita and Suha are originally from Syria, and you've been in the country less than a year.
Yeah.
Right? And here they are on a podcast. So even though you say that you feel that way, right, or when you're dealing with people who are in a new country and so on, you're doing pretty well.
I'm trying my best.
Good job. All right, so it's feeling the fear and doing it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question. Do you ever worry about being embarrassed or looking stupid when you are with people? Is that something that worries you? Really?
Not really.
No?
Because here I know nobody, so I don't care. That's why even if I did something stupid, no one will know.
That's interesting, right? Yeah. Because that's actually an interesting angle. Because when you think about it, are you more concerned about looking stupid or in front of the people that you know? Is there a sense of, well, nobody knows me here anyway, so I can behave foolishly? Is there that dynamic to it?
Yeah.
I've heard that too. It's interesting that you said that too, because I've heard in terms of singing, for example, I've heard people that say, oh, I'll never sing in front of my friends. I'll never do that. I'll never perform a musical in front of my friends because they're just going to be laughing at me, or, you know, there's just that fear. Whereas if they say, right, go and perform in front of 1,000 people that you don't know, they're like, yeah, sure, I'm calm with it.
True.
You know.
True. So that's interesting. I wonder whether there's something else that we can explore in that as we go along. Okay. So you said yes. You said yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Just unpack that for us.
I feel like it's, for people I don't know, you know, when you're meeting someone for the first time, you try and make an impression. It's not fear, it's just being conscious of what I'm doing so that I don't give off the wrong impression, or as people say, the wrong vibe. Just being conscious that I am presenting myself the way that I want to be viewed and respected.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in front of my like friends or someone I know, it would be okay. I would make a joke about it and just move on. People will forget. But if I'm meeting someone the first time, I won't see him again. No, I just bye. That's it. This is the last time I will see you.
Yeah.
So and people like you know them, they will forget. But people for the first time, they will always remember that.
Yeah, and especially when people say things like first impressions matter, first impressions count. And you hear that a lot, don't you? Especially when you're sort of maybe going for interviews or things like that, and people are giving you really good advice about making that first impression. So you get worried that, does that mean that, if I mess up this first impression, is that it totally, right? So I guess that piles on the pressure. Okay. So what about another question? Do you avoid situations where you might find yourself as the center of attention? Do you actively avoid that kind of situation or not?
Kind of. Because I'm a shy person, so I'm not a big fan to be the center of attention. Yeah. But not the most time, no.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I am. No, I'm not. I mean, as I said, people forget. No one is going to remember anyways. I don't remember anyone got embarrassed of like being the center of something, because people, if you are in center of attention, you would get nervous and you would do something that you won't probably do if you're like more relaxed. So I think it's okay to be in center of attention because people won't remember that. No.
I like your attitude. That's a really good attitude to have in life, right? People will forget. But it's very important because I think sometimes, we have a fear of failure or fear of making mistakes because we somehow think that these things will be ingrained in people's memories forever. Now, there are some people who don't let you forget things, right? But they're few and far between. I think the reality is that in most times people move on. And I think it's important to maintain that kind of perspective, right? That life goes on, people forget, people move on. So I'll be free to make mistakes or free to be nervous, feel the fear and do it anyway, right?
But I'll be honest, I'm someone that would always like to be say the right thing or do the right thing. I'm always like nervous of doing something wrong or saying something would hurt someone's feelings. So I think I'm trying to balance this. Just people will forget. No one is going to remember that after couple of years. But the feeling of like being nervous or doing something wrong always come with me. Yeah.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Being the center of attention. Well, I feel like with regards to school and projects, I always tend to be the group leader or tend to be the person who takes control. And I would consciously try to avoid that because it happens all the time. I remember especially with regards to English, our controlled assessment for GCSE, I was really trying to avoid the situation because I know I'm probably going to be put in the situation anyways, and I got put in the situation. I just feel like there are other people who could do the job better than me, or let someone else have a go. So sometimes I guess I would try and withdraw myself. Yeah.
But that's not because you're anxious. It's more about you trying to be just conscious and ensuring that other people's
Yeah.
get a space.
I don't think it's me being anxious. No.
Yeah. Okay, all right, okay. So I wondered whether, because you're all obviously from different backgrounds, right? We've got Rita and Suha, Syrian background, Claire, Zimbabwean background, Gloria, Nigerian background. I wondered whether the issue of discussing social anxiety is taboo. Do you feel it's taboo, and are there any, particularly maybe in your cultures, do you feel that maybe from your backgrounds, whether it's something that's difficult to talk about or certain stigmas attached to it? I wondered whether there's a difference there between, for example, here and maybe in the countries where you originally hail from. Anybody want to weigh into that?
Yeah, actually, in the Middle East, generally, if you said I have social anxiety, they will look at you, laugh, and move on. They don't. They are not really aware of mental health or these kinds of sickness, I would say. But yeah, no one will ever talk about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not spoken about. Like, I've never heard anyone said that I have social anxiety or I have any kind of mental illness or any type of disorder. Even like if it's normal to have social anxiety, it's okay to have it, but we are acknowledging it, but we don't like we are acknowledging it, but we are not gentle enough. We are not dealing with it. We are just acknowledging it, that's it. But I think the fact that we took the first step to deal with it by acknowledging it is really okay, it's really good, but we don't talk about it in Syria. No. Like,
and when you
not
say
spoken about.
And when you say we are acknowledging it, I wonder whether it's the language that's used. So, for example, you might not say, "Oh, I'm dealing with social anxiety." Would there be a different word that's used, for example, when somebody's trying to explain how they're feeling? So they might not have those words to use, right?
they would probably say I'm shy. Yeah. He's a shy person. Get over it. That's what probably people say. Like, they won't say if like he's dealing with social anxiety, like be gentle with him or like care for him. No, he's just shy. They would try to push you in the like crowds or like to center of attention. And I think this is really bad. Like, being shy is different, and having social anxiety is really different. It's not the same. Like, being shy, you can get over it, and you can like, okay, you've been in center of attention, that's it, you have to do something. But being in social anxiety, I think you can't function. Your brain just shut down if you're in the center of attention. And I think this is really bad. Like, in the Middle East, or you can't like you can't say that you have social anxiety.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not limited to the Middle East. I mean, Claire, what would be your thought on that, maybe from an African background?
I would say, yes, definitely we experience the same as the Middle East would. It's not talked about. I remember when I was younger, we would see this woman in the street. This is in Zimbabwe, and they would call her, she would be, I guess, defined as crazy, like a lunatic is what they would call her, because she'd be just out in the streets, you know, and she would act in an anxious manner, and she'd just be out in the streets. So she was homeless, but she would act in a really anxious manner, and you just see the way people react to her. They just call her crazy, and there's a misunderstanding that's there, a big misunderstanding. But I feel that with the movement of social media, for example, now, where these terms are being exposed and thrown around, there is, I guess, as Suha was saying, that acknowledgement that there is such things as social anxiety and mental health, but the extent to which these things are dealt with and really recognised for what they are is just very, very limited. But I would say, coming from a Zimbabwean household, in my own family experience, we talk about it very openly. We are an expressive family, and it's not even talking about social anxiety, it's more talking about how we feel about things. And I think in moments where we've been anxious about certain situations, we've then been able to sort of discover where that anxiety is coming from, and break it down into, well, how do we fix it? How do we stop it? And I think I would say in that regard, I have been lucky to have a family. My mum and dad have been allowed me to have a space where I can express myself and my feelings.
Mm-hmm. Very good, thank you. Gloria, what did you want to add to that?
I feel like it really depends with who you're talking to. I know some people where you could never talk about, I want to say mental health issues in general, not just social anxiety, but maybe even just feeling anxious or feeling worried or feeling upset, and there's no particular reason as to why you're feeling upset. But then there are other people who genuinely would care and would want to understand why. And I see that, you know, I know someone who's a counselor from my background, and the way that she speaks to myself and to my friends, you can show it's a really caring and loving manner. And if she sees anything out of the ordinary, instead of judging or criticizing you, she will take you to the side and ask you what's going on. She won't say, oh, why you're behaving in this manner. She will actually try and break it down. Whereas other people would see abnormal behavior as, oh, this person is being disrespectful. So there are different people. That's what I've come to, that's what I've observed.
Yeah. So not to make a generalization about in this particular culture or that particular culture. I mean, I know that, you know, here in Northern Ireland, where we all are, you'd have people who would say, oh, pull yourself together. You know, I think actually there's actually a book that's called Pulling Myself Together or something along those lines, where the author is talking about, you know, how she felt depression and people just kept saying, oh, pull yourself together, sort of thing. And she's just trying to make it clear that it's deeper than that. And I heard you say, Suha, earlier on about, you know, people aren't gentle. I think sometimes people are wired to give what you call tough love. So rather than sort of help you into that situation, it's like throw you into the fire, sink or swim, you're going to be fine. That sort of approach, right?
They'll probably say that you're being dramatic, stop being dramatic.
Yeah. So I guess the thing is just for us to just kind of pause a bit, right? And just really try and get under the skin of what people are saying. But I think it's important also not to end up in a situation, because I can see how somebody could be watching this and say, well, does every time I'm shy, every time I'm scared to stand in front of somebody, every time that I'm meeting somebody new and I feel nervous about it, does that mean I have social anxiety? And we've got to be careful, right? Not to over egg it, if I can put it that way, and turn every situation into, you know, oh, it's got to be social anxiety. I think it's trying to get that balance, and I think it's one of you that said where it's actually stopping you from doing stuff, where it's impacting your life. And I think it's important to remember that it's natural for us all as individuals to feel nervous and so on. But that's where that kind of feel the fear and do it anyway comes into it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think also just we're talking about all our different backgrounds. What about like here in Northern Ireland as well?
Yeah.
I think there are two sides where people who, as I said, may be gentle, and other people, like you said, pull yourself together.
Yeah.
So I feel like even though we have our stereotypical, stereotypically this place would maybe not be as loving, I think it's pretty much the same everywhere. You've got your half on your half. Or,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as you say, somebody said about social media, that there's a lot more awareness, right, generally around the world about these issues, right? So people are becoming more aware of these things. But there are still people who wouldn't acknowledge or choose not to acknowledge when somebody is actually dealing with a mental health issue, and would rather see it as you're being lazy, you're being idle, that kind of thing, and that cuts across culture. So it's about all of us just, creating a space for people around us to kind of feel able to speak, right? I wonder, do you think it's just looking at it from the perspective of a young person? So we're talking about Gen Z, right? Do you think that it's more of an issue? Just your perspective. I know you're not experts on it. I know you haven't done the research. What is your sense? Do you think that young people feel more socially anxious than adults, or you don't have any particular lean on that? What do you see around your peers?
I think, yeah, young people definitely feel more anxious and social anxiety, like have these problems more than adults, because as a Gen Z, we have social media exposure, like really big exposure. So we see all the bad comments. We don't say that this is just probably a fake account, or it's just people saying stuff they don't really mean it. We just see at these bad comments and we just say they're probably right. So having this social media, I think it's not that good, because it probably set the way to have these problems in real life. Like having all these bad comments, not, of course there will be a lot of positive comments and a lot of encouragement, but let's be honest, most of the social media is bad comments. So that really sets the way to have these mental issues, not just social anxiety.
Yeah, you guys are nodding. You want to weigh into that?
I agree with everything that Sue has said, but I would say that whilst, yes, for young people, the problem seems like it's only for young people are the ones that are suffering from social anxiety. I think everyone suffers from social anxiety, and that's from conversations I've had with people of different ages. And I think especially now, we have had this COVID situation, how it's affected different age groups is, it's been significant. In relation to young people, we are worried about, okay, we're only beginning to set our lives post-education, for example. We're only beginning to get jobs, and now all of a sudden you can't work. And guess who's getting out first if there's any redundancies? It's the young people. And now you get to a situation where you're kind of stagnant and uncertain, and that's, it's a lot of pressure on you. You get that social anxiety. And then you've had everyone, even the elderly, for example, they were the most vulnerable in the situation. And imagine the news telling you that you're the most vulnerable. How does that make you feel? Every day you're living in fear, thinking, well, if I'm, such and such an age, so I'm probably going to get it, I can't go out now. And now you have a situation where, yes, we've gone out of it, we've come back to this new norm, but then everybody has kind of changed. We've had a mental shift in how we relate now to our environment, because they were having the schemes to make people go out, because people weren't going out to restaurants anymore, and it seems funny, but it's actually a serious problem, and it's something that's going to take time for us to heal through. Yeah.
Did anybody else want to weigh into that?
I think what I was going to say is that for young people, I think maybe social anxiety or feeling anxious or worried could be on the rise, is because of not maybe not knowing who you are or not coming to the sense of maturity of being content in who you are. Because I believe if you're confident in who you are and what you carry, then you wouldn't be anxious of what other people feel about you, what they think about you. Yeah.
But to question that, would you not say in an environment where you're constantly being told your boobs aren't big enough, you need lip injections because your lips are too small, or you need to downsize your lips because they're too big, or you're being told all these negative comments constantly, they're being thrown at you, they're coming from different angles. Do you think young people today are in a situation where we can't really discover, it's harder for us to discover who we are more than ever now, because we have all these constant, it's just a good for thought question.
Yeah, and I think also having the exposure of different people telling this is the way you're supposed to be, no, this is the way you're supposed to be, and trying to figure out, okay, well, A said this, B said this, C said this, Z said this, which one am I going to? That can definitely, I guess, make it harder and to try and figure out who you are. I haven't thought about that yet.
And in an age where you have so many influences, I mean, what are the influencers doing? They want you to think in a particular way. So there are those who come up with those. I mean, I see all sorts of things on social media, and they're calling themselves influencers. But what they're influencing isn't, it's about, for example, this perfect body image, the perfect walk, the perfect look, the perfect makeup, and they're all influences. You're influencing in so many different directions. So there is that challenge that I think as young people, we never had this much pressure. I have to say, when I was growing up, there's always been pressure of the other, but now it's just in your face constantly. So it's very important, as you say, to know who you are. And one of the sessions that we did, obviously, when we were sort of the development sessions that we were doing prior to this, was about exactly that: identity. Who am I? Because when you know who you are, then you know how to frame your world and the experiences in your world, and you know that it doesn't define, certain things don't define who you are. Okay, so we're gonna bring this to a wrap. Just wanted to talk around, does social anxiety require diagnosis? Does it always require diagnosis? Again, nobody here is a mental health professional. Just your thoughts about this.
Well,
Sorry.
Well, having, I would say, social anxiety difficulties, for example, being scared to talk to your classmates for a presentation or meeting new people, I think that's just a thing that everyone feels nervous. But I think if it comes to the point where it really is limiting just how you relate with other human beings, then that is something that you need to look into very seriously. But if it's a thing of, like here today, I know I'm a bit nervous, but that's not stopping me.
You can still function.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yes, it's really about at what point do you seek help, and I think the best way that we can put it, I think Suha already said it, is when it's really just preventing you from living life, from doing things. So maybe preventing you from going out, preventing you from having simple conversations with people. You might want to start off with a conversation with your GP, for example, maybe to signpost you to the counsellor that you can talk through. And if there's anything that we've discussed here that impacts you, you'd like to maybe get some more information, we'd be happy to signpost. So please do get in touch with us, and we can do that. Okay, finally then, what about ways to cope? So we've identified that some of this nervousness, we all feel it at certain points. How do you cope when you're feeling, I'm a little bit anxious about this situation? How do you get over it? So, for example, Suha, you said, I don't particularly like to be in public, and so, but here we are. But how did you get over this?
Maybe because I have my sister with me.
So have a partner.
But surrounding yourself with someone that you know who won't judge you or won't say bad things to you, they would, if they have a comment for you, they would say it in the most appropriate way, won't hurt your feelings. So surrounding yourself with people that really loves you, and step by step like put yourself out there, but be cautious with yourself. Don't push yourself that much. I think this would be really important.
Yeah, very good. So surround yourself with positive people, right?
Yeah.
People who
Get away
are,
from
have a
toxic people.
constructive, and positive impact on your life. Yeah, not negativity all the time. What about you, Rita?
I guess to stop conditioning yourself, and because your conditioning is defining who you are. For example, when you are always lonely in front of the computer, playing video games, not socializing, that will, how would I say it? When you are always lonely, that's definitely not encouraging you to go out and socializing. So that will strengthen the shyness in you, and you will say, "Oh, just that's me. I don't like. I am shy," and shy is not who you are. It's just a personality. We all have different personalities, multiple personalities, not just one. But the more important is not to strengthen it. That, yeah.
So avoid situations where you're always alone. So like you talk about, spending a lot of time in video games, that sort of stuff, because you say that strengthens that kind of shyness in me in my own world. So consciously socialize. Yeah. Okay. What about you, Claire?
I would say just maybe find activities that boost your confidence. And by that I mean just anything that you know you're good at. Music, sport, reading a book, anything that you're sure of, that you can just do and know that if somebody were to tell me I can't do this, I know I can do. So surrounding yourself in activities that you know you can actively do and confidently do.
Okay, yeah, good, thank you.
Taking deep breaths definitely helps. For me also, I'm a Christian, so I like praying. That calms me down, just to reflect, and also just talking to someone about it and trying to instead of looking at a big picture, put it down into little bits and just go step by step.
Yeah, very good. I remember a colleague of mine, we were doing a presentation a while back about, how do you kind of handle challenging situations? And she posed a question, I'd never heard it before. She said, how do you eat an elephant? Well, and she said, one bite at a time. In other words, when you're dealing with something that seems huge, start with just one bite at a time, step by step, day by day, and you get over it bit by bit. Yeah. Well, listen, ladies, thank you so much. It's been a very insightful conversation, and I hope that this has been helpful and interesting for our audience online. So we're going to bring this episode to a wrap, and I want to say thank you again to the lovely ladies who joined us today. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Suna. Thank you, Claire. And thank you, Gloria. And thank you, audience, for joining us today. And we'll look forward to seeing you again on another episode of On Mute Now. Now, you can catch us on our YouTube channel. It's On Mute Now. And we also have various social media channels. So you can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter. And you can find us also on Facebook. Look for On Mute Now. And you'll find us there. Please do let us know your thoughts concerning some of the things that we've discussed today. And if you would like to have some more information, we're happy to signpost you. So until the next time, thank you so much for joining us. And continue to raise the volume on those whispered conversations in our community. Bye.